This video is on finding missing angles in parallel lines. In this diagram, I have got two parallel lines. You can always spot parallel lines in your paper because they have got arrows on. So in my case, I have got two arrows, but usually you'll see only one of these arrows on. Now you'll also notice that I have drawn a line across my parallel lines here. And by doing this, I have created angles, 4 down here and 4 up here. Now hopefully you can see that the red angles here are all obtuse and they are all the same size. Hopefully you'll also notice that these blue acute angles are also the same size. So what I've got here are 4 equal obtuse angles and 4 equal acute angles. Now it doesn't matter where you draw this line across these parallel lines, you'll always end up with these 4 equal angles, obtuse and acute. Now because of all of these equal angles, we have some angle properties. Now you'll notice in this diagram I have 2 of my acute angles. Okay, these 2 angles are equal, and this one here is on the right hand side of these group of 4, and this one here is on the right hand side of this group of 4, and we call these angles corresponding angles. Now we can find corresponding angles because if I join up the lines that make this angle here, and I join the lines that make this angle at the top here, you'll see that they make a letter F. And all corresponding angles will make this letter F. Now you'll see here that I've got 2 of my equal obtuse angles. Now these angles are again the same, and they have also got a special name. We call these 2 angles alternate angles. Again, I'm going to join up the lines that make this angle, and I'm going to join up the lines that make the other angle, and you'll see I make a letter Z. All alternate angles will make this letter Z. Lastly, you will see that I've got a blue little acute angle and this red obtuse angle. Now hopefully you can see that these 2 angles are not equal. Instead, they have a different property. And these angles we call interior angles, and both of these angles add up to 180 degrees. Again, there is another letter associated with these interior angles, and if we join the lines that make this blue acute angle up with the lines that make this red obtuse angle, you can see we've got this letter C. So all interior angles will make a letter C. So as a review, before we look at some example questions, corresponding and alternate angles are equal, and interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So how do we spot them? Well, for corresponding angles, look for the letter F. For alternate angles, look for the letter Z. And interior angles, look for the letter C. So in this first example, I am asked to find the missing angles X, Y, and Z, and also to give reasons for my answers. So firstly, we're going to start with the angle X. Now, if you have a little look at this, the lines that make up this angle X, you can see that they join up with the angles that make 48 into a Z shape. So I know that X equals 48 degrees, and I know the reason for this is because it is an alternate angle. Moving on to Y, if I join the angles that make the Y angle up with the angles that make the 30 angle up, I get a flipped over letter F. Okay, if you find it hard to see that this is a flipped over F, I'm just going to use my flip function on my board. And if I move this down, hopefully you can see now that this is quite similar to the letter F. Okay, so this means that Y is the angle 30 degrees. And the reason for this is because it's a corresponding angle. Moving on to angle Z. Now if I join the lines that make up angle Z With the lines that make 30, hopefully you can spot that this is a flipped over C angle, which means that Z and 30 are interior angles. And we know that interior angles add up to 180. So Z equals 180, take away 30, which is 150 degrees. And remember, we've got to give reasons, and that's because it's an interior angle. Here's one for you to have a go at. Pause the video and see if you can work out the angles A, B, and C. Remember to give reasons for your answer. Okay, so let's have a little look at the answers. So first, if I connect the lines that make A with this 49, you can see that they make a Z shape. So that means A is 49 degrees, and the reason is because it's an alternate angle. Okay, so moving on to B. If I connect angle B up with 72, you can see it makes a sort of C shape. So that means that these are interior angles, and B and 72 must be 180. So I've got to do 180, take away 72, which is 108 degrees. And again, my reason is because it's an interior angle. Okay, so finally C. Now if I connect the angles that make C with the angles that make 72, you can see again I've got a flipped over F shape. So that means that C equals 72. And the reason for this is because it's a corresponding angle. In the second example, I'm going to show you that sometimes you not only need to use your parallel lines properties, but also all of the other properties you've learned about angles up till now. So firstly, I've got a pair of parallel lines and I've got a triangle drawn in. In fact, this is a isosceles triangle because, as you can see, I've got these two lines that mean that these two lengths are the same size. So firstly, I'm going to try and find an angle inside this triangle. Now you'll notice that if I join up this angle here with this angle down here, which I'll just mark on here in red, you'll see that it makes a Z shape. So I can label this angle A, just to make my working clear, and I can say that A equals 42 degrees, and again I've got to give reasons for my answer, and that's because they are alternate angles. Okay, so now I know that A is 42 degrees, I can now try to work out X. Now if you remember, base angles in an isosceles triangle are the same. So these two angles here are base angles. So I know that this is also the size of angle X. Now I also know that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So first off, I'm going to do 180 take away 42, which is 138 degrees. And the reason for this is because angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Now I know that 138 degrees is the same as 2 of my missing angle X. So I know 2 lots of X is 138 degrees. Now I know this because base angles in an isosceles triangle are equal. So now all I need to do to find my missing angle X is divide 138 by 2, which gives me 69 degrees. So here, not only have I used the properties of alternate angles, but I've also used the angles in a triangle and base angles in an isosceles triangle. Here's one for you to have a go at. Pause the video, have a go, and then I'll go through the answer in a moment. Before I give the solution to this angle question, I just want to make a note that there are many different ways to find this angle X. And if I don't go through exactly the way you did, don't worry, it doesn't mean that you've gone wrong. Just means that you might have different reasons for getting X. Okay, so first off, I am going to find this angle here, which I'm going to call A just to make my workings clear. Now I know that A equals 62 degrees. Now the reason behind this is because 62 and A are what we call opposite angles. Now I'm going to find this angle in here, which I'm going to call B. Now I know that if I join up A with B, I make an F shape. So this means that B is also 62 degrees, and that's because it is corresponding. Now starting with the other angle, I'm going to find this angle here, which I'm going to call C. Now I know that C equals 180 take away 104, which is 76. And I know this because both C and 104 lie on a straight line, and straight lines add up to 180. Now I'm going to find the other angle in this triangle, which I'm going to call D. And if I join up the angle for C and the angle for D, you'll see again I can make an F shape. So this means that D is also 76 degrees because it is a corresponding angle. So now I can work out what X is. So if I have 180 degrees for the full triangle and I take away angle B, which is 62 degrees, then I take away angle D, which is 76 degrees, I'll get my answer, which is 42 degrees. And the reason, because angles in a triangle add up to 180. Okay, so hopefully that's helped you to find missing angles in parallel lines. Now just to remember that most of the marks come from actually finding out the value of the missing angle. You'll get a couple of bonus marks for describing all of the different reasons for your answers. So don't be put off if you can't remember all of these names. Still try and find out what this missing angle is. Another quick tip at the end here, if you do find these questions at the end a little bit tough, just remember that actually you can usually calculate every single angle on the diagram. So just start calculating away all the different angles that you see, and you might find that eventually you get to a point where you can see how to find this angle X out at the end. Okay, so the best way to be better at this is to practice. So practice loads of exam questions on this, and good luck.